Bullshit is a greater enemy of the truth than lies are, by Harry Frankfurt. In his famous essay on bullshit, philosophy professor Harry Frankfurt claims that bullshit poses a greater threat to the truth than lies do. In this video, we will explore why he reached exactly this conclusion by analyzing the arguments laid out in his essay on bullshit. We will not only break down Frankfurt's reasoning, but also look at how we can apply those insights to reduce the spread of bullshit in our own lives. Or, in other words, how we can be aware of bullshit and how we can talk less bullshit. In the old days, craftsmen did not cut corners. They worked carefully and they took care with every aspect of their work. These craftsmen did not relax their thoughtful self-discipline, even with respect to features of their work that would ordinarily not be visible. Although no one would notice if those features were not quite right, the craftsmen would be bothered by their consciences. So nothing was swept under the rug, or one might perhaps also say there was no bullshit. On the one side, we have carefully made goods. On the other side, we got bullshit. The goods are crafted, one might say carefully crafted. Bullshit, on the other side, has even in its name shit, what is an excrement, and this we can label as not designed or crafted at all, merely emitted. This is the one characteristic of bullshit, that it is often not carefully crafted. Still, there's one more point to bullshit. Think of advertising, or politics, or social media, where there's a lot of bullshit flowing around. And we wouldn't name this bullshit not carefully crafted, but we probably could rather name it perfectly crafted bullshit. To explain this point further, Frankfurt tells a story concerning Ludwig Wittgenstein. Wittgenstein's friend was sick, and she wrote him a letter with the following words: "I feel just like a dog that has been run over." Wittgenstein's answer: "You don't know what a dog that has been run over feels like." Frankfurt assumes that Wittgenstein means it seriously, and for the sake of the argument we take it as that. Wittgenstein's response, or from Wittgenstein's response, we can assume that he thinks of his friend's sentence as bullshit. The point that troubles Wittgenstein is manifestly not that Pascal, the friend, has made a mistake in her description of how she feels, nor isn't even that she has made a careless mistake. The point is rather that, so far as Wittgenstein can see, Pascal offers a description of a certain state of affairs without genuinely submitting to the constraints which the endeavor to provide or accurate representation of the world imposes. Her fault is not that she fails to get things right, but that she is not even trying. So basically, Wittgenstein's critique is that he critiques his friend of not even trying to give an accurate description in the first place. And that means basically that he doesn't even try to represent reality or the truth itself. She cannot be regarded as lying, for she does not presume that she knows the truth, and therefore she cannot be deliberately promulgating a proposition that she presumes to be false. Her statement is grounded neither in a belief that it is true, nor, as a lie must be, in a belief that it is not true. It is just as a lack of connection to a concern with truth, this indifference to how things really are, that I regard as the essence of bullshit. What is bullshit? The essence of bullshit? It isn't concerned with the truth. In some cases, it isn't carefully crafted. With that knowledge of what is bullshit, we can now more separate it from the topic of lying, or from what bullshit is not. Telling a lie is an act with a sharp focus. It is designed to insert a particular falsehood of a specific point in a set or system of beliefs in order to avoid the consequences of having that point occupied by the truth. This requires a degree of craftsmanship, in which the teller of the lie submits to objective constraints posed by what he takes to be the truth. The liar is inescapably concerned with truth values. In order to invent a lie at all, he must think he knows what is true, and in order to invent an effective lie, he must design his falsehood under the guidance of that truth. On the other hand, a person who undertakes to bullshit his way through has much more freedom. His focus is panoramic rather than particular. He does not limit himself to inserting a certain falsehood at a specific point, and thus he is not constrained by the truth surrounding that point or intersecting it. He is prepared, so far as required, to fake the context as well. So the liar is much more constrained, namely by the truth. The truth gives the liar constraints on both sides, so to speak. Bullshit, on the other hand, has no constraints at all, and even worse, it can even make up the context by itself. Both he and the liar represent themselves falsely as endeavoring to communicate the truth. The success of each depends upon deceiving us about that. But the fact about himself that the liar hides is that he is attempting to lead us away from a correct apprehension of reality. We are not to know that he wants us to believe something he supposes to be false. The fact about himself that the bullshitter hides, on the other hand, is that the truth values of his statements are of no central interest to him. what we are not to understand is that his intention is neither to report the truth nor to conceal it. Again, the liar has to deal with reality. When some person wants to tell us something false, this person is still constrained by the reality, or is at least somehow connected to the reality. When someone tells us the truth, let's give it a value of 1. When someone tells us a lie, this value would be -1. It would be, so to speak, the opposite of the truth. But it's still connected to the truth in some way or another, right? The bullshitter, or someone who tells us bullshit, doesn't have constraints at all. A person who lies is thereby responding to the truth, and he is to that extent respectful of it. When an honest man speaks, he says only what he believes to be true. And for the liar, it is correspondingly indispensable that he considers his statements to be false. For the bullshitter, however, all these bets are off. He is neither on the side of the true nor on the side of the false. He does not care whether the things he says describe reality correctly. He just picks them out or makes them up to fit his purpose. As an example, let's visualize the just spoken in some statements. Statement 1. Under the administration, we have seen 5 consecutive years of economic growth and job creation. Statement 2. This nation's economy has been stagnant and losing jobs every year under the current administration. Statement 3. The truth is that the recent economic growth has been so tremendously huge and fantastic that soon every household in the nation will be richer than every other household from the rest of the world. What we can see here beautifully, I would say, is that Statement 1 and Statement 2 are somehow connected. Of course, they are saying the opposite, but still they are in one way or another somehow connected. They are talking about the same fact, so to speak, just the one says the opposite of the other. Let's say Statement 1 is the truth, so we just give it the claim X. Then Statement 2 is claim minus X. Statement 3 is bullshit, because you can totally make up some things which are totally irrelevant. Of course, we can now argue that Statement 3 in this example here is a little bit connected to Statement 1. But I hope you can see that Statement 3 totally exaggerates and can even just make up some random facts. Now, why is bullshit a bigger threat to the truth than lies? Both in lying and in telling the truth, people are guided by their beliefs concerning the way things are. These guide them as they endeavor either to describe the world correctly or to describe it deceitfully. For this reason, telling lies does not tend to unfit a person for telling the truth in the same way that bullshitting tends to, through excessive indulgence in the latter activity, which involves making assertions without paying attention to anything except what it suits one to say. A person's normal habit of attending to the way things are may become attenuated or lost. This is pretty interesting, because when we are just talking or thinking without any concern for the truth or for reality itself, then we are just destroying our minds. When someone develops a habit of lying, this person's still somehow connected to reality or to the truth, right? I know, I made this point now 3 times or something like that, but I think it's really important to hammer this in. When someone develops a habit of bullshitting around, like without any concern for the facts themselves or for truth itself. Of course, at some point this person more or less lives in some different world, so to speak, where this person just makes everything up by him or herself. Someone who lies and someone who tells the truth are playing on opposite sides, so to speak, in the same game. Each responds to the facts as he understands them, although the response of the one is guided by the authority of the truth, while the response of the other defies that authority and refuses to meet its demands. The bullshitter ignores these demands altogether. He does not reject the authority of the truth, as a liar does, and opposes himself to it. He pays no attention to it at all. By virtue of this, bullshit is a greater enemy of the truth than lies are. Now we arrived at why is bullshit the greater enemy of the truth than lies are. Because bullshit doesn't care about reality or the truth in the first place, while lies still do. And I don't want to build the picture that lies are in some way or another good. They are also really bad. But as Frankfurt argues, bullshit is the worst option. Why? Because bullshit doesn't even care at all about the truth. At least lies are caring about the truth, even, of course, also in a misrepresenting way, because they want to just misrepresent the truth. But bullshit doesn't care about the truth at all. Someone who ceases to believe in the possibility of identifying certain statements as true and others as false can have only 2 alternatives. The first is to desist both from efforts to tell the truth and from effort to deceive. This would mean from refraining from making any assertion whatever about the facts. The second alternative is to continue making assertions that purport to describe the way things are, but that cannot be anything except bullshit. When we have no opinion, or not an informed opinion about a certain subject or about a certain topic, we have 2 choices. Either we remain silent, or we are talking bullshit. One of the most salient features of our culture is that there is so much bullshit. Everyone knows this. Each of us contributes his share. Before we talk now of strategies to stop ourselves from contributing bullshit, let's first have a look on why there's so much bullshit out there. Bullshit is unavoidable whenever circumstances require someone to talk without knowing what he is talking about. Thus, the production of bullshit is stimulated whenever a person's obligations or opportunities to speak about some topic exceed his knowledge of the facts that are relevant to that topic. This discrepancy is common in public life, where people are frequently impelled, whether by their own propensities or by the demands of others, to speak extensively about matters of which they are, to some degree, ignorant. So every time someone talks about a topic one is ignorant about or doesn't have so much ideas about, bullshit is created. And this is especially dangerous for people in the public sphere, because sometimes they are motivated by themselves, but also often from outside pressures. They are forced to have an opinion on everything. And with public people is a problem when they just give some uninformed opinion in public, and let's assume they have like a big reach to a lot of followers. It is a lot of bullshit created by just one person. Widespread conviction that it is the responsibility of a citizen in a democracy to have opinions about everything, or at least everything that pertains to the conduct of his country's affairs. The second point is that society pressures basically everyone to have an opinion about his or her country's affairs. Just some days ago, I talked with a person about politics, and politics is one of those topics where everyone thinks, at least, that he or she has an opinion about. And somehow I could sense that that person didn't really know much about politics. But what can we do to stop talking bullshit? What we got so far. What is bullshit? Unconnected to the truth, often not well crafted. How is bullshit produced? When someone talks of things this person has no idea about or is ignorant about, how do we talk less bullshit? First, by caring about the truth, reality. Second, not giving an opinion or talk when we don't know or aren't completely sure. At least say that we are not sure. Third, if we are pressured to talk, saying I don't know. Getting back to the political example from before, I detected bullshit in the first place. This was the easy part for me. The more difficult part was to stop myself from talking bullshit, because I realized that I probably don't know much more of politics, because I really don't know so much about it, than my counterpart. Even if I'm sometimes thinking that I know more. But there I'm just getting in the trap of being ignorant. So the hard part for me was to stop myself from talking. And I only talked about what I was really certain of. And now, of course, one can say that it was just wrong what I talked about. But this is not the point, because I talked only about what I was certain about, because at least I was, so to speak, aiming at the truth or aiming at reality. At least I hope that I was not so ignorant of it. And the second part was that I tried to say as often as I could, I don't know. I want to leave you with one question to think about. Do you think in an AI age, which we enter now, or probably we already entered, will there be more consent or less bullshit? When you want to be less ignorant and know much more things about many disciplines, consider checking out this playlist on mental models. When you are interested in another provocative essay, namely that from Dietrich Bonhoeffer on stupidity, check out this video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video today. And as always, I wish you a fantastic day.